Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League's No Championship for Race 2 from Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. Before we find out what happened in qualifying, let's have a look at the current championship standings. After race 1, SGP leads the way on 20 points ahead of Conrad, who's just ahead of Demon R. We've then got Steve F1 in 4th place with Mitch in 5th place, Jason in 6th place on 10 points, then we've got Fluffy in 7th on 9. SRI's in that 8 for 8 place, Jimmy in 9th on 7 points, and then we've got Hay in 10th, Artpal in 11th, Rich Blues 12th, Bunsell 13th, Twilight 14th, Dave the Harp 15th, and then Formula Gary and Tyler both tied in 16th place, having not yet scored a point. Gary is able to join us for the race today though, so let's have a look at how qualifying went. And Steve F1 took pole position with a 143.330, just ahead of Mitch in 2nd place. However, look at the gaps between 1st and 2nd and 3rd. There's less than half a tenth of a second between the three of them. And then we've got Conrad in 4th and SGP in 5th on exactly the same lap time. But not only that, SRI is also on a 143.7. Just how close do you guys want to have it? But it doesn't stop there. 7th and 8th are less than half a tenth of a second gap. The gaps between all of the drivers is absolutely minuscule. So 7th, 8th, 9th all within a tenth of a second. 10th and 11th are 4 tenths, but 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, they're very close as well. Absolutely fantastic. Goes to show that just how action-packed this championship could be, or should be, or at least how action-packed this race should be. Okay, enough waffle from me. I think it's time to head over to the commentary team for all of the action. Here we go then. Joining me on commentary once again, it's Connor. How are you, Connor?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Dave. How are you?
I'm not bad, filling my face with pale yellow, getting a sunburn. Looking forward to the race here at Catalunya. It says there, Catalunya is your home. It is for most of the motorsport community. For Steve F1 though, it's where he's on pole position as we wait for the lights to go out, and away they go, and it looks like a decent start from Demon R and Mitch and Conrad, maybe. SGP slotting in behind. Yeah, we could be in for an interesting battle down into turn 1 here, Connor.
Yeah, I've got a couple of cars side by side in the background, but Conrad's going to go down the inside of both Demon R and Mitch.
Demon R going around the outside of Mitch, Conrad going around up the inside of Mitch, and Conrad manages to gain 2 places. He's also got the inside line now, which will carry him all the way up to the inside of turn 4. Tricky right-hander coming up, or Mitch is having a look up the inside of there as well. SGP seeing if there's a gap, but there is not. Now we're into probably the first of the danger corners, as I would call them. The tricky left-hander, if you leave the door open, somebody will go in it, as Demon R's having a look up the inside of Mitch here because he's left the door open a little bit, and behind him SRI sneaking up alongside SGP.
Yeah, a couple of cars in the background getting a bit squirrely coming out of that corner, but a few cars have had a bit of a decent start. I know SGP had a bit of wheel spin, but he still managed to get up there, and he's alongside Demon R's. SRI nearly runs in the back of him there. We've got Dave the Harp following them in behind there as well.
I hope SRI's asked for permission to start crashing his cop car. Demon R up the inside of SGP, or should I say
10-4 over.
Oh my goodness me. We've got a code 52. I don't know what all the codes are. I'm sure Ray does. But anyway, yeah, SGP trying to make moves but can't quite do it. Conrad, he's gained a couple of places off the start, and he's now all over the back of Steve F1. Ooh, I think that was Steve F1 going a little bit cautious there? Maybe, as they make their way through the horrible chicane for the first time. Oh, Steve F1's well out of shape. So's Connor. Mitch is trying to sneak up the inside.
Yeah, I think Connor tried to prepare the corner, and he just didn't really watch his rear view mirrors, and Mitch tried to sneak up and overtake, but both gaining on Steve F1 down the straight here. Steve F1 goes defensive quite early.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's kind of going defensive this early in the race as well. And Conrad going around the outside makes the move. Lovely overtake there. So even though Steve F1 defended it, it didn't help him at all. It just compromised his corner speed. May be able to fight back, but he's now got Mitch there as well. Conrad may want to look at going defensive here, because if he does, Steve F1's definitely looking up the inside, but Conrad does go defensive, and I don't blame him. Let's see, is anyone going to have a look up the inside of 4? Conrod's kind of trying to say, no, don't do it. SRI is up the inside of SGP, is he? No, SGP's gone well deep on the brakes.
Yeah, he just... Damon, I looked like he was trying to look around the inside, the outside there. And SRI is actually going to go side by side. If we can go on board, we do. SRI doesn't quite have enough momentum, and actually Damon takes the gravel there and manages to stay in front. He's going to have the inside line for this next corner.
I think SRI's going to have the run on him though. Oh, he is, because he's gone wide into the gravel. Is he going to keep going in the same direction? He manages to save it just about. Not a bad
one. Foot planted there.
Yeah. Oh, but that's allowed Dave the Arc to really close the gap. Demon R, he's not slowed down for the hairpin. Dirty tyres, yeah, that's not worked for him. So Demon R plummeting, SRI gaining. Dave the Harp caught up now. What an interesting start to the race.
Yeah, now that SGP's sort of got rid of SRI and Damon R, he's got on the back of Mitch and Steve F1 now. SRI might be able to break and go with them as well as Damon R defends from Dave the Harp, but we'll see as they go down the straight here. Mitch is going a hell of a tour here if he can just sort of decide which way that Steve F1's going.
Yeah.
He picks up the tour from Conrad as well as he pulls to the outside.
I mean, that was a bit of a tricky one for for Mitch. If he'd have pulled out earlier, yeah, if Steve F1 had have got the slipstream off Conrad, then Mitch would not be able to make the move, and Mitch could have lost the place. So it's a tricky one. It's not going to be easy to overtake around this track, I don't think, especially down that main straight. We could get decent attempts though into 4, 5 and 6, and the hairpin obviously. So what have we got? Conrad still leading, Steve F1 second, Mitch trying to regain on the back of Steve F1, but now SGP is lashed onto the back of him. SRI is closing into the pack as SGP gets a little bit, as you put it, squirrely. Demon R trying to stay away from Dave the Harp, but Dave has got Twilight all up his chuff, and he won't like that.
Yeah, he's got the rest of the pack up his chuff. Demon R makes a bit of a mistake going through there, and that's going to cost him a lot of places. Actually drops near to the back there. So he got that corner a bit wrong there as Damon R, and he's just had to take a trip through the gravel.
Yeah, that he has. That's put him right down to 15th place. Let's see, Mitch trying to attack Steve F1, not quite working. This is working though for Conrad, because the more Mitch attacks Steve, the more Conrad maybe, I was going to say pull away, but he's had a big wobble. Oh, he's still wobbling, manages to save it, but that's going to put him under pressure with potentially slightly overheated tyres into the final corners, and he's still wobbling about. Mitch is under pressure from SGP as well, and SRI. Holy cow.
Yeah, there's a big battle on here for third, but second and first is going to get close as well. As you see, SRI's rubbing door panels with SGP there.
Yeah, that he is. Has anyone told SRI that this is not a What the Ford race? He's not meant to be this far up. He's not meant to be battling for the win. Mitch is kind of stuck. Oh, Conrad, he's under pressure. I didn't see that in the foreground. Steve F1 trying to make the move on him. I was so busy watching SRI, I nearly missed Steve F1 overtaking for the lead.
Yeah, Conrad just leaned on them a little bit going through that first corner, just sort of rough defence, but now Steve F1's got the inside. And in the background, SGP makes a late dive to the inside of Mitch. Don't know if he didn't get that, he didn't get the manoeuvre done, but they are side by side, and Conrad's going to have still there. He's going to have the inside line now. Well,
he closed the door into 4, but ended up running wide, which allowed Steve F1 to get right close. So Mitch and SGP still side by side. SRI's got nowhere to go. They're going to be slow through this chicane. Mitch backing out of it a little bit. SGP giving him the space, but now they're going to have to go single file, otherwise they're going to compromise each other massively, as we've seen that Steve F1 has pulled away now from these three onto the back of Conrad, and the battle continues down into turn 10. The hairpin, SGP going fully defensive there.
Yeah, he just pulled the car to the inside and just let Mitch know where he was going, but Mitch is just going to break around the outside, and Jason comes through, nudges Dave wide. We know what Dave the Harp will be saying there, but yeah, Jason comes through, makes the position in the background. I think that was Jimmy getting a little bit sideways as well as he came over that curb, which is it is quite a dangerous curve, isn't it? Oh, speaking of dangerous curves,
yes,
Jason arrives sideways.
And I am hearing as well from my spies in the stands down at turn 10 that David Hart got a little bit deep on the brakes into the hairpin, so got himself a bit wide, but he was then nudged a little bit by Jason. So Steve F1 attacking Conrad now into turn 1. This is what Conrad did not need. A lap or so ago he was clearly out in the lead. Now he's fighting for it, and as they fight, yeah, SGP and Mitch could start closing in on them, and they already are through turn 3.
Yeah, SRI's not that far behind as well, so if these two do catch up with the front two, then SRI could capitalise on that, and he could be a 5-way scrap for the lead. So it's going to get interesting in these next couple of laps, I reckon.
Yeah, obviously as well, apologies that we can't show what's happening in the pack at the moment, but we've got a battle for the lead, and we do have to kind of, I mean, at the end of the day, the rules are, when it comes to the cameramen, no pornography, no selfies, and yeah, never, if SGP asks you to go and video something for him, say no. But yeah, the kind of rule of thumb is if there's a battle at the front, that's what you watch, or you watch the battle closest to the front. Steve F1 just dropped off a little bit from Conrad there. It looks like he has.
I think he has, but that's closed SGP and Mitch, and in fact SRI is now closer. Just looking in the background, I noticed on the map that Demon has worked his way through the pack a little bit, just actually going through the shot there. The hair pulls over and lets somebody go through there, so yeah,
he got massively out of shape into the hairpin. I think he tagged the back of Fluffy, and may have collected someone else, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, Demon has managed to get himself back up there through the pack, going through shot now. Bunsell there with Gary, Fluffy, Twilight, Jimmy, Art Powell, who by the way has now been given a permanent seat, as Tyler. Unfortunately, Tyler's struggling for availability at the moment, has decided to drop down as a reserve, which allows Art Powell to know for certain that he'll be racing each week, which I'm sure you can attest to, Connor. It helps to know that you've got that race for the next week.
Yeah, it does, and certainly if you're a reserve driver, if you sort of just watch this battle for the lead now as Steve F1 goes on the inside, Conrad's going to brave it around the outside. He's going to be on the marbles though. But keep his foot in, he's got the inside line, but Steve F1's covered him off.
I was going to say, is he taking that line to try and get the inside into the next corner? It hasn't worked on this occasion, and SGP is trying to get past as well. Conrad just has enough speed on the exit to stay ahead. But yeah, Conrad coming under a little bit of pressure. I've got to say though, not disrespectfully, but SRI is having an absolute stormer here. For him to be keeping on to the tail of these guys, that's, yeah, something's, I think he needs his car checking.
Yeah, he's definitely doing well, SRI. We've seen him in a couple of... Conrad's going to brave it around the outside there.
SGP's got himself into a little bit of a gap that's going to disappear, and the two Steves there managed to just about back out of that as SGP now did a bit of wheel in the gravel. Oh no, can he keep it facing the right direction? He can, but SRI says thank you very much. You can look at my rear end for a bit. Yeah,
just back with what I was saying about SRI, we have seen him in a couple of seasons where he has had some stormers. He had a couple of good races in the Subarus in the Special 4 Cup.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't quite benefit from the Mazdas last season. As you see, was that Twilight in the wall in the background in the pit?
I think it was, but Steve F1's gone big on the brakes down into turn 1 on Conrad. Mitch was trying to attack as well, and yeah, Mitch trying to make the move around the outside of Conrad through 2. Fantastic drive. I mean, I've got to say, this is brilliant racing up at the front. These guys have not really hit each other yet. It may happen, but yeah, I mean, you're right. SRI. Ooh, Conrad nearly. He's having a look. Mitch closes the door. Yeah, you were saying about SRI having a few decent races.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know if it was in the Subarus where he did manage to keep SGP behind him for quite a while, and he was doing a very good job of keeping him sort of steady. So SRI does have these odd moments where he does have a couple of good races, but I think with most of the tracks he kind of struggles with, but he is having a good one. He's getting really stuck into the top 5 guys at the moment. He's actually in there in 4th place, looking at 3rd.
Yeah, he's attacking Mitch down towards the hairpin. Is he going to be brave enough on the brakes to try and stick it up the inside? To be fair, He's not done anything wrong there. He's not gone too aggressive. He's got around the corner. He's still in the fight. SGP trying to close in on him. Jason has started to pull away a bit from Dave the Harp now in 6th place. We can see him there. He's slowly starting to catch up to the back of the pack here. Oddly enough, the pack being the leading group on this occasion. He's closing in, isn't he?
Yeah, these guys are sort of starting to hold each other up now. Just a couple of guys dipping their noses in, having a look. It's just holding a few of them up, and SGP might have a look at SRI down in the first corner. SRI's gone defensive in the middle of the road, but he has left a gap on the inside.
You know what SRI's going to be saying, don't you, with that one? No, Nina.
Should have called it the Nina Championship.
True, yeah, could have done. I'll tell you what though, SRI is still fighting it round the outside of 3. SGP's going to have the inside to 4, but we'll see if SRI is going to try doing a bit of a switchback. It's probably the best thing to try and do at 4, but no, he's trying to go all the way around the outside. That could give him the inside to 5, and if he's
Which
in,
he does have.
He's got a good run there. He can go brave now. He's got the position. That's a lovely bit of driving from SRI. SGP tried a little switch back there, didn't work, but yeah, that just goes to show that SRI's confidence has definitely grown. He's feeling it in this car as he goes a little bit sideways, but yeah, he's definitely feeling the confidence.
Yeah, I think what it is with this car is you can literally wring the neck of it and it's not going to do anything too unexpected. You can push it, and SGP's having a look on the inside. No, SRI brakes a bit later and manages to gather the car.
Oh, SGP
gets at the side of him.
Oh, he's managed to straighten him up though. Oh, he's had another go, and here comes Jason. To be fair, SGP, yeah, he sort of turned SRI there, managed to just about back out of it, straighten him up. That could have been absolutely disastrous, but that's really helped Jason. And Demon R is now on the back of SGP, so Demon R, having dropped to 15th, has managed to get himself back up to 7th, and I think you've got to say it's still in with a shot here of the win. I will mention though, if you've not noticed it, have a look at the top of the screen, folks. There's a message up there that might be quite interesting. What's happening on the screen though is SGP trying to retake Jason down into turn 1.
Yeah, just 3 guys battling now. Demon R wants to get past Jason if he wants to push SGP, but yeah, the guys aren't that far away. Certainly Steve F1 looks like he's starting to get a little bit of pace up now and starting to find a rhythm, but certainly Demon R's in there for a podium, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely potential. I mean, Jason there, I mean, to be fair, I think this is probably the closest the whole grid has ever been in a race, at least 10 laps into a race. I don't think anybody up at the front here can afford to make a mistake, because if they do, they're dropping all the way to the back. It's not like last week where we saw a couple of drivers make a mistake but managed to stay in that top 5, if you remember. I don't think that's going to be happening at this race if anyone makes an error. You mentioned about Steve F1 opening up a bit of a gap. He's definitely done that. He's got himself settled. Conrad sliding through the turn 10 hairpin. Mitch trying to take the opportunity on that one and manages to slot just in front of Conrad, and it's an interesting situation now for Conrad, because if Mitch is currently a little bit quicker, you might want to let him go and see if he can latch onto the back of Steve F1 and slow him down. Jason under pressure from Dave the Harp though. I mentioned that Dave was closing in, and so is Fluffy. Dave with a nice overtake there.
Yeah, I think there's a few guys from last week who don't look as comfortable this week. Certainly Conrad doesn't look as comfortable as he was last week. And also I don't think Dave the Harp looks as comfortable as he was last week.
That's true.
SGP just looking around the outside of SRI now. He is going to get the move done if he can, but SRI just gives the throttle a little bit of a squirt and keeps himself on the inside.
I've got to say, SRI's driving absolutely brilliantly. I mean, I've seen SRI race a lot, and in the past there would have been situations in this way they've gone, I think I'll just back out of it. But he's there, he's legitimately fighting SGP on pace, which is absolutely brilliant. I've got to say, making SGP go defensive. And the thing is, this is going to slow these guys down now, as is the way, and DMR's going to catch them, but so is the whole of the pack, because the pack is there.
Yeah, we've seen that last week. We commented on it last week how the the pack were able to sort of stay in touch, and that worried a couple of the front runners. But the only thing I could think of last week is obviously with no pit stops allowed. If these guys did have to make a pit stop with the pack being so close, it would have given a few of them a headache, especially last week as well.
Definitely.
Because if they come out, they would have been in a danger zone of coming out right at the back of the pack or in the middle and potentially having incidents. But
yeah,
fortunately, they don't have pit stops.
I don't know if you saw it there, but SRI gave SGP a right good punting into the hairpin. But I'm wondering if SGP is kind of... I mean, it's an interesting one, this actually. I know that SGP likes to park it on the apex. Some people don't like that, and I'm not saying they don't like that from him, but they don't like it when people park it on the apex. Personally, I don't have a problem with it because they're not actually parking it, they're just not accelerating yet. SRI, I think, that's what caught him out at the hairpin, and the into turn one is sort of saying it doesn't matter if you park it on the apex, I'm just going to go around the outside of you, but he can't.
Yeah, he didn't quite have the grip there, but he's going to have another go, but he wants to be careful because Demon R will attack him on the inside as well.
Yeah, so he's kind of got... SRI's kind of got to defend and attack at the same time. And the thing is, SRI's now sort of defending, but Demon R may be able to go all the way around the outside, but he's not going to try that. He's trying to switch back, but I think, again, SGP's parked it on the apex, and it's ended up with Demon R hitting the back of SRI. Oh, someone got a little bit sideways there. So I think SGP's sort of driving a tactical race here as Fluffy and Jason go side by side. Jason's come under a lot of pressure. Since he started catching up, unfortunately, he's dropped back again.
Yeah, just on SRI, he's actually in that catch-22 situation where does he attack and potentially have a position gained but also a position lost, or does he just stay where he is and try and keep the position? There's three abreast at the hairpin there.
Yeah. I don't know if he meant to make it 3 wide, but he made it 3 wide and he managed to get ahead.
Making it work at 3 wide. So see Arpal in a lovely livery there coming through. Not too much, but it is very nice and stealth looking.
Bunsell, that's an odd line. Oh, he's managed to avoid hitting anyone. I wonder if Arpal is aware that he's or intentionally made what looks like a face on the rear end of his car. It does look like there's a face looking at you, kind of like with tribal tattoos. SGP under pressure once again from SRI. Park it on the apex, he will. Don't mean to speak like Yoda. So yeah, you're absolutely right with SRI. He's at catch-22. If he attacks at the wrong place, he's losing a place. Jason, he was passed by Fluffy though, and Fluffy, is he going to go defensive up into 4? And he might want to think about it because Jason's got a decent run on him. He's having a look up the inside on the ball. I think Fluffy may have just squeezed him a little bit there, but they managed to get through the corner, and here comes the pack.
That's one thing, you watch the pack and you think, oh, there's 2 cars side by side, and then 4 cars come into camera view behind it. See there, Gary's round.
Yeah, he's got tagged by Twilight as well.
Yeah,
like Twilight could do that.
Unfortunately, he's just he's isolating, so he's got to get his 2 metre distance there.
Yeah, that's true. I've got to say, actually, I mean, I did joke about Gary being ill last week. To be fair, he is ill. Unfortunately, he had the cove, and spent a few days in hospital last week, and is back home. To be fair, no one expected him to be racing here today, but to be fair, he's made it, I just hope he gets a good night's sleep after this race, because I reckon he's going to be knackered.
We'll just have to enforce some of the merchandise that's just been launched. We'll have to get some Gary face masks.
I don't know. No, to be fair, that's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought about that. Okay, Steve F1, he has got a bit of a gap now, hasn't he? The thing is with Steve F1, he's into a zone now where he's got enough of a gap where he can just settle himself, and when he's in that position, is difficult to beat. We've learnt that. Hay making it 3 wide, just about alongside Jimmy. Or is Jimmy going to get it slowed down just in time to not tag the side of Fluffy? Maybe it's Fluffy's turn to attack Jason into turn 4 on this occasion. But you're absolutely right, Connor. Once again, I mean, these two are battling, but then you look in the mirror and it's like, okay, there's 3 wide. Try to make it 4 wide.
Yeah, and then you've got the then you've got the bright pink of Rich in the background going side by side with Gary. So then your eyes are reverted to that. But it looks like Gary's got through there.
Oh, that he has. I mean, Fluffy again. I know has not been able to get a lot of practicing around this track, and I mean, this is a track which I think people. SRI's got himself all out of shape into the left-right chicane, and that's going to give Demon R the opportunity. I'm wondering, whether Demon R and SRI were kind of not attacking each other, because we didn't really see Demon R attack. Arp out, he's attacking Fluffy. Is he into 9? No, Fluffy closes the door. Oh, but they're both running wide. Are they going to survive? Just
about. Here manages to get past both of them there.
Oh, Bunsel's
a couple of door banging there. Bunsel, nice to see Bunsel back involved where he belongs, bumper to bumper. But there's that hay off in the background as well.
It is, yeah. I don't know exactly what happened there. It looked like there was a few collisions, but yeah, there was a few cars sort of having it looked like an odd angle into the hairpin, and then got sort of tagged from behind. So yeah, a little bit messy through turn 9 there. I forgot what I was going to say. That was it. SRI and Demon R. I wondered if Demon R didn't attack so SRI could, and I'm wondering whether SRI is now. I mean, SRI is in a situation where now he could go, you know what, I'm just going to let my tyres cool down a little bit, and if Demon R can catch SGP and put him under pressure, then that'll help SRI. Because one thing that I'm sure SRI and Demon R have got to be aware of is the pack, as we've mentioned, because if Ray's made a little mistake there, it's cost him a place. If he makes another one of those, he's in the pack,
and it could cost him about 3 or 4 places.
Yeah, definitely. So, when you see that kind of stuff,
that's the sort of stuff we're talking about. Was Bunsel and Gary, nice bit of racing there from them 3 guys. Actually, Zarpal gets stuck in as well.
That was brave.
Back to what you were saying about obviously reserve drivers that we were speaking about. I think when you're a reserve driver, you don't really practice as much as you would if you have a full-time seat. So then when you do get called upon, you can't really make the most of it. I know certainly when I was a reserve, I wasn't really practicing because I didn't see the point if I wasn't going to race.
Yes.
So then you get called on the night or the night before and say, right, there's a space available, can you race?
And then you're like, but I've done no practice.
Yeah, you go on and do a few laps and you can't really take advantage of it and see if you deserve a full-time seat. So I think when you get gifted a full-time seat, you certainly got to make the most of it. It'll only take time for Arpal to get used to it, and he's already battling with the pack anyway. So
Total Fluffy and Bunsel had an interesting battle through the final corners there. SRI is going for the move. He's decided, oh no, he's not. He's kind of going but not going.
Yeah, he kind of shows his nose or shows an intention to overtake and then doesn't follow through with it. But it is keeping him in a position there though, because he isn't causing an incident and he isn't getting involved in any incidents. But it's keeping him up there as we see Fluffy going for a move on the inside of Gary now.
And it's like we said before, one of the best things you could do. Oh, Gary's run wide. I don't know if he was helped there. I was going to
judging by Fluffy pulling over.
Yeah, Fluffy is pulling over, isn't he? Yeah, I think Fluffy may have nudged him there. Bunsel trying to attack Art Power. You see, look at the face on the back of Art Power's car.
Arse of Art Power's car.
Yeah. We've said it so many times in the past. If you can get someone to look in their mirrors and put themselves out of position a little bit, you may be able to overtake in the next corner or the corner after, and that's kind of what SRO was probably doing down into turn 1. Or Demon R's made the mistake and run a bit deep into the hairpin. That's going to put SRI through. And a lovely camera angle here as we watch the pack.
Seen a car arriving backwards there.
Yeah, I have no idea who it was.
It looks like it was Jimmy, I think.
You might be right, because I can't see him there at the moment. So Jason then, he's now on at the back of Dave the Harm. These two have had an interesting race so far, because Jason was catching up to the leading group, caught the leading group, and then plummeted and got into battles that he didn't really need to be in. But to be fair, Dave the Harp can see the cars ahead of him. They're only a couple of seconds up the road, look.
Yeah, he will be aware of if they make any mistakes, he needs to be on them, but also he doesn't want to be caught within the pack. as you see, Arpal and Bunsell having a great race in the background, but they're still able to keep up with Jason and Dave the Harp. You see Rich as well, actually, in the bright pink car joining the battle as well. He's going to have a look around the outside of Bunsell.
He's going to have
Doesn't quite have the momentum to get there.
Yeah. Well, thinking about it, actually, Rich has recently moved house. I mean, they moved out of their house some time ago, I think it was.
Dave the Harp was off.
Yeah, big mistake from Dave the Harp there. That's freed up Jason, and I think Dave may be in the gravel again. Yeah. Oh, Fluffy, big crash from Fluffy. Didn't see if he was collected by somebody, but he's just there.
Dangerous rejoining the track there.
I think yes, it was, but at the same time, it did kind of look like he wasn't going for it to get going, but he was still moving. Questionable that one. Bunsell having a move on Arpal down into the hairpin. But Bunsel's gone wide now. Arpal tagged him, and there's a dirt road over there. Careful, because you're going to come sliding.
That's the rallycross track there.
Yeah. It's a tricky one that, I mean, someone makes a mistake into the hairpin all on their own, gets all out of shape, it can really mess up where you want to put your car, and you can easily find yourself sliding into your opponent. Twilight getting a little bit out of shape there.
Yeah, a few of the guys are just wiggling, and I think it's tyres are coming in a bit more in this race than they did last week.
Yeah, Twilight looks like he's got carrying some speed there. I don't know if he was bump drafted. He may have been, because Gary's there. Rich also. He pulls out alongside Bunsell, late on the brakes. Can he get it slowed down? Rich has tagged Bunsell, but Bunsell doesn't mind that. He'll survive it, and that frees up a little bit as they go 2 by 2. Rich and Jimmy side by side. That's going to be danger.
Yeah, there's always danger when them two go side by side, isn't there?
There is. Bunsell just got big tank slapper. And Twilight, I don't know if he backed out of the action into turn 1 and went for the safer option, but he's let these guys battle on. You talked about tyres. I mean, once again, the pit lane is closed. The tyres still last the whole race quite comfortably. However, I think this is the most punishing track on tyres in this championship. So if anybody has pushed the tyres too much, they are going to suffer in the last few laps. As Rich, I thought Rich was getting out of shape, but is that Dave running wide again? I think Dave's may have got a little bit too eager there.
Yeah, so I was saying about a couple of guys maybe looking a bit uncomfortable this week. Certainly I said Dave was one of them, and he's proven it by not keeping a consistent run this week. I mean, last week obviously there's the wall and the chicane where a few drivers always struggle, but he had the race pace, but this week he just doesn't seem to have the outright pace he did last week.
It could be a factor of tyres. Gary and Jimmy going side by side here. Gary with a lovely bit of awareness there to realise that Jimmy was up alongside him. Someone else was just sideways into the chicane as well. SGP has managed to pull away from SRI and Demon R now, so looks like the battle between SRI and Demon R is going to be for position at the moment. SGP managed to pull away. Conrad may have to start looking in his mirrors. Steve F1 is pretty much checked out, but he has got what we got going on here. He's off the track. He looks like he's slowing down a bit though. I don't blame him if he made a mistake. Yeah, he doesn't want to be gaining from that. Fair play to him. I thought he was going to pull somebody there to be like, fair play to him, smash. But yeah, I mentioned Steve F1. He has checked out, but a bit like last week, he's got someone, Mitch, in second place. Lap time battle going on there between those two. Steve can't afford to make a mistake. Conrad in third, and SGP has definitely picked up his pace in the last 5 laps and is closing in on Conrad. Jason has managed to break away from the pack, but to be fair, I think that's because Dave got himself into a little bit of trouble, and that sort of freed up Jason.
Yeah, Dave the Harp still managed to find himself in 8th. Always Fluffy and Gary get into each other there. See Twilight coming through in 16th there. Hayes actually made up a couple of positions. We see him doing an overtake on Rich, and then he having a look at our pal there.
That he is.
Fluffy on the inside of Gary. Bunsell might get through, and Jimmy's going to have a look as well.
You know what? I'm glad Jimmy backed out of that. He realised that the gap was closing 3 wide through that little kink. You do not want to be on the left-hand side of that. Live to fight another day. Fluffy had made the move on Gary. Can Gary defend into the chicane from Bunsell? Yes, he can. Gives him the room. Fluffy gets a little sideways and back down at the front. It's not the front, it's for fifth and sixth. Demon are trying to make the move on SRI, but SRI is having not a lot of it. Yeah, he's fighting. He wants that place.
Yeah, he managed to just brake and get the nose turned in at the same time there, and that just cut Dave's front end off. As we see, these guys are all falling into... Oh, here! He manages to stop the car before he managed to get into anyone there. He's actually lost the position to Arpal as Arpal goes through. Gary gets into the side of Fluffy.
Well, interestingly, I'm pretty sure Fluffy went a little bit extra acceleration just before the corners, just to get the position, but it compromised in mid-corner. Now he's trying to turn in, but Gary's got Jimmy up alongside him, so Gary can't go anywhere. So yeah, I think it may be a situation there of Fluffy trying to gain or keep a place into one, but it's compromised him so much that he's now lost 3 places. Oh no, and he's spinning. No, we've seen him in the barrier there once already. He's not going to be happy in that cockpit.
No, definitely not. As you say, Bunsell and Jimmy and Gary all trying to make it 3 abreast through there. That's not going to work, and that sent Jimmy off to the side.
I think it sent Bunsell off as well. But yeah, Bunsell into the barrier.
They're both off.
I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, okay, we get excited seeing 3 wide sometimes, but there are some places that you really don't want to be going 3 wide, or Demon are all over the back of SRI. I mean, it's a little bit like this chicane here. You can go 2 wide if you want, but really you don't want to do that, because you end up going so slow. And it's similar. I mean, to be fair, most places you don't want to be going through. I mean, it's something I was actually contemplating doing a video about at some point, but Demon are currently attacking SRI down into turn 1. Tried it on the last lap, couldn't get it done, but is further alongside on this occasion, so does get ahead. And interestingly, SRI, he's spotted that, and he's not defended it too hard through 1, because now he can attack back through 3 up to 4. This is what I love to see. This is a driver who, I can't believe I'm saying it, is really thinking about what he's doing.
Yeah, SRI and thinking don't go in the same sentence, does he? But yeah, he definitely is looking good this race. And certainly when you were talking about 3 abreast, I think, Dave, to be honest, that when we go to Austria next week, that's a track that would maybe work 3 abreast, because it is quite a wide track, obviously, with it being, you know, it's quite a nice flowing track as well. There's not many slow corners. You know, 3 abreast will probably work through a couple of the fast corners and, you know, down the straights, because it is quite broad, but I wouldn't want to be going 3 abreast into the first corner at Austria.
Oh, hey, big sideways. I don't know if he was held there. He may have been, but yeah, hey, unfortunately, into the gravel. I mean, it's one of those things. You can go 3 wide, but you really don't want to, because you aren't going to have to go slow. And like I say, I'm tempted to do a bit of a feature about it at some point, but Arpal up alongside Gary here into the turn 10 hairpin. Twilight trying to sneak in there as well. Oh, but Arpal's now attacked Gary and spun him around. I don't know if that was a case of Arpal being caught off guard by Twilight. I wonder if Arpal is going to be slowing down for Gary on that one. I think really probably should be, as Jimmy is all out of shape, and yeah, he might want to slow down as well.
No, Jimmy was just warming up his tyres there.
Ah, right, fair enough.
But yeah, I'm not sure if Arpal, because it looked like Gary had 2 wheels on the curb and did try and put his foot down on the curb, so I don't know if he's got sideways and Arpal was there, or if Arpal's actually running the side of him. But yeah.
Here's a question for you. If you're 3 wide down into turn 1, who has to back out?
Outside, I would say.
See, interestingly, I'd say inside. Inside and outside, right? Outside has got to be aware there's 2 cars to the right of him. Inside has got to be aware that they've got to slow down more to get around the corner, leaving space for the other 2. So inside, for me, I would think inside has got to be the one that always has to be braking first, otherwise they're not making the corner. So that for me, okay, it's not a case of necessarily, oh, Jimmy unfortunately off. It's not necessarily a case of they've got to back out of it, but it's a case of if they want to get around the corner fairly, they've got to be on the brakes before the other 2. And if the car on the outside wants to get around the corner fairly, he's probably going to have to be on the brakes before the one in the middle, because he's got a long way round to go a corner. But if there's another corner straight after that, they've then got a really tight one. And if you're in the middle, you're in no man's land and you can't really do much of anything. Oh, who's that that's just tagged the back of Fluffy? That was a big tag. I think that was Art Pal. They've managed to survive. I'm sure Art Pal will be on the radio with that one apologising, but yeah, Fluffy just about survives that one.
Yeah, what I would probably say, if I was the car on the outside going to 3 abreast, I would probably back out anyway, and try and get the run, undercut and try and undercut them up the hill. Certainly this corner does work, as we're going to say SRI on the inside.
Yep.
Damon R backs out as it would go back to the pack actually, but Damon R backed out there and would have got the sweeter line to come at him at the top of the hill.
Exactly, yeah, to re-attack.
But this is going to be interesting to see which line these guys take.
2x2 or Fluffy, is he going to make it 3 wide? He's going to make it 2 wide. See, interesting, Dave's kind of backed out of it there to try and get the switch back on Twilight, but he has to be careful because Fluffy was looking up the inside of him. Dave has managed to get the switch back just, and now comes Fluffy to try and get back into that attack.
Yeah, see, that's the sort of thing we were trying to describe, was the way Dave the Harp just backed out and got a run up the hill. He hasn't got the overtake done, but it gave him a chance to have a look, and it was probably safer, and he's lived to fight another lap. But yeah, we're getting close to the end now.
Oh,
jinxed him there, haven't I?
You have, yeah. The now is 4 wide.
Oh God, look at that! Nearly 5 abreast.
Okay,
there.
so now this, if you're up the inside here, you don't want to be up the inside here, especially not 3 wide. Oh, I'm not surprised this is getting a little bit physical. Dirty tyres, cars all over the place, getting swamped, which reminds me, we watched a Swamp Thing lately. It's worth watching. I used to watch it when I was a kid. They've remade it. But anyway, Pack Life. It's great.
2 laps from the end.
Oh, who's that up the inside? Oh, that was a... I think Dave realised he was... he got that one a bit wrong.
Yeah, I think it might get a bit tasty now, Dave. 2 laps from the end, and these guys are really fighting for position now. But one guy that isn't is Steve F1. Mitch is on his own, but look at that now.
Yeah.
Conrad and SGP.
So SGP has managed to close the gap on Conrad. Demon R's managed to get ahead of SRI, but I don't think either of those battles are done yet. We've not seen these two for quite some time in the race. And to be fair, Mitch is not that far ahead, so it's not like the front two have disappeared into the distance. But Conrad has spent probably the last 10 minutes not being pressured from behind, and now he's going to have to see if he can pick the pace up and look in his mirrors.
Yeah, certainly Mitch and Steve F1, they were the top 2 in qualifying, so we know they've got the pace. Steve F1 definitely has the pace, pole position, setting some really good lap times, and then just unfortunately Conrad hasn't looked comfortable this week. He was putting SGP under pressure last week, and now he's the one under pressure from SGP, so I think we're going to see a few more battles from these 2 guys as the season goes on. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm interested to see what SRI can do in the future races as well, because he is legitimately up there on pace with the guys just ahead of him. Twilight, he's legitimately under a lot of pressure as he heads up into turn 9 over the hill. Fluffy right behind him, Art Pal there as well. Oh, and what's this? We've got a new feature with a leader cam as Steve F1 is starting the final lap of the race.
Someone's been saving up. We see Conrad and SGP loading up there as well, and we've got the second battle cam of Demon R. Oh, as he just goes wide on the gravel there, and SRI's going to have a great tour. On the screen now we have SGP diving on the inside.
Yeah, making the move into turn 1 and on battle cam 2. He is, isn't he?
On the inside as well.
SGP gets the move done through 1. Has SRI got the move done? Yes, he has. Looking now at the Pack Life cam, I mentioned Twilight was under pressure. Okay, this is a bit bonkers, this. I'm sure if you press on one of the screens at the bottom, it'll enlarge for you. But yeah, so Pack Life, we're on to the final lap of the race, Connor. I wouldn't like to think who's going to finish 8th.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to think. We've still got 5th and 6th close, and 3rd and 4th. SCP cycles coming out of the hairpin there. Conrad's going to be right on the back of him again.
He is. Gary's attacking Fluffy. Gary's attacking Fluffy, but Art Pal's coming around the outside of him. There's so much happening.
Side by side again. You see, Gary's on the outside. He's going to go 3 abreast.
He is.
Conrad's having a look at SGP, and Demon and SRI side by side as well.
That they are, and the pack is still there. Twilight's got himself a bit of a gap. Connor, can he make the move? It doesn't look like he can. Demon R on SRI trying to make a move. SGP stayed ahead. Steve F1, by the way, is into the final skill. Oh, big crash on the back life cam. I didn't see exactly what happened there as Steve F1 is coming around the final corner. SRI and Demon R side by side. Steve F1 is going to win the race in Spain, and Demon R's off. Oh, SRI manages to get through. Oh, carnage for Demon R. SRI is on the move again. Who is crossing the line now? SGP finish line cam. He's across the line. Demon R's getting going, but he's lost a place to Jason. Chaos on the final lap of the race. I don't know where to look.
We certainly definitely have to look at the pack life cams. They all come into the last chicane now. A couple of them just aggressive on the curbs.
Yeah,
looks like they're all going to cross the line in this order. Nobody's looked close enough, so they're all going to cross the line. 6 cars together there, and then Fluffy in the background.
But I think it will Fluffy. I don't think he's happy. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned there was a big crash there. I'll get my trackside reporters onto it. We'll see if Dick Bignell can find out any information as Art Pal is crossing the line, because yeah, there was a big crash on the pack life cam in the pack there at the left right chicane. I am hearing as well that it looks like Bunsell may have tagged the back of Jimmy and put Jimmy into a couple of other cars, which unfortunately has resulted in a few cars off the track, including Bunsell. But I am hearing, interestingly, I'm hearing that it's not a kind of normal Bunsell incident from a few seasons ago. Like, it's not like he's missed his braking point by a mile and rammed everyone. It's the smallest of contacts, which has had a massive effect. I'm being told a bit like a butterfly flaps its wings and creates a tsunami somewhere.
Yeah, there was so much to try and concentrate on.
Yeah.
On that race, it was hard to sort of work everything out. Certainly with all the cams we've got now, we were able to keep an eye on it, but it's just one of them last laps where everybody seemed to be side by side with someone
at the same time. Yeah, I mean, whether those cameras are going to appear again, I do not know. Well, personally, I said no because it took me ages to put that together. But anyway, looking at the race result, the unconfirmed race result, I've got to say, Steve F1, what a race he's had. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Yes, he had pole position, but the gap between first, second and third was less than half a tenth of a second in qualifying. So yes, he was pole, but it was by the tiniest of margins. He didn't have an easy race to begin with, but he controlled it from midpoint on.
Yeah, definitely. He just sort of come into his own with race pace, and he looked really good in that race. Did Steve F1, and one guy who did stand out has to be SRI, because that's probably the best race I've seen him on pace wise, not just on who he's able to keep behind him, but definitely pace wise he was phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, taking nothing away from the Special 4 Cup Championship, but that was a championship that was set up with different cars that had different benefits. I mean, there was no benefits from a different car today. I mean, for me, it wasn't just that he had the pace to keep up with them, it was the racecraft in the battles to keep up with them as well. I mean, next week he's probably going to cause chaos, but I think for me, well, to be fair, I know that after this race, SGP has said SRI would be his driver of the day. Now, we don't do a driver of the day, so he can sod off with that one. But yeah, he probably would be, driver of the day on that one. Mitch had a great race. Recovered well from the difficulties at the last race to finish second. Basically done nothing wrong and had a really solid race. And if Steve F1 had made a mistake, Mitch would have won it.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a few times, and it seems like it's going to be a reoccurring thing in this championship of people being in front but not comfortably in front. They've always got someone who's going to be in danger of gaining a place, and I think we're going to see that throughout No matter what position you're in, you're always going to be wary of who's behind you, and you're going to have to, stay consistent as you can. You're basically just going to have to keep it on the black stuff and hope that your pace lasts, because there's a lot of people behind that are willing to take up their position in a heartbeat.
Definitely. I mean, you look at Conrad has had a brilliant race here, and unfortunately was caught by SGP in those closing couple of laps. I don't know whether SGP went on a sort of tyre saving drive earlier on or whatever it was, but he had the battle with SRI keeping him behind him, half spun him, but then managed to pick up the pace and sort of put some pressure on Conrad, resulted in a great battle at the end. But that's exactly what you're on about. I mean, 10 minutes from the end, we're not thinking that SGP's got a chance of third place. All of a sudden, he's got a chance. There's nothing against Conrad. Conrad's had a great race. SRI, brilliant, deserves that 5th place. From what I can gather, whatever happened with him and Demon R at the final corners wasn't SRI's fault. Demon R was shouting at him to keep going and don't wait for him, which is an unusual one. But at the same time, it is, I suppose, in that situation where the rules are, if you hit someone off, you wait for them. If an incident has happened and the other person doesn't know if they're at fault, if you know they're not, it's handy to tell them, no, just keep, you're alright mate, go. Because if Ray had waited, he'd have lost a position and he'd have lost points that he would have fully deserved.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, the two of them had a great race where they weren't touching each other, but just unfortunately, this time around when they have touched, it's the last lap and there's not much recovery can be done from there. After the recovery that Demon had already done, which shouldn't be forgotten about. I mean, he was down in 15th place, so to get back and still finish in 7th place, yeah. So he's still had a good race considering. And then Jason managing to sneak in there as 6th. I mean, he didn't really have that much pace. He sort of caught up to the guys and then dropped off again, but he has managed to sneak in there still. Yeah,
well, it's interesting. Jason, in a way, is a lot like Steve F1 in that if you give him a bit of a gap, he'll be consistent with his lap times, and that's where he can then break away from a pack or catch up to cars ahead. And I mean, okay, Steve F1 is a bit quicker at the moment, and is winning races, but Jason is, I mean, I've known him for a long time. He is so consistent, it's ridiculous when it comes to lap times if you give him a chance. But yeah, I mean, he had a difficult phase of the race, as you said, and managed to pull it out. I mean, it's an interesting one I find with Demon R though, because could be many people that perhaps could be new to the championship or new to DGT and don't know much about him. Like for example, Hay. I think in the time that Hay has been within the DGT, I think Demon R's only won one race. But prior to the last 2 seasons, Demon R was winning pretty much everything. But I mean, I know Demon R, and he's not someone that is approaching the championships as, right, I'm going to practice for 2 hours on a Monday and 2 hours on a Tuesday and 2 hours on a Wednesday for the race on a Thursday. He wants to just enjoy his racing. So for him, it doesn't matter where he's finishing as long as he's enjoying his racing. And I think, I mean, that was the same for SGP. It doesn't care where he finishes as long as he's enjoying his racing. So it's one of those things where I mean, we've heard of it many times where someone says, I've won a race and it was good, but I really enjoyed this other race where I finished 4th because I had an amazing battle all the way through.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I mean, okay, so, sometimes people's mentality is a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Twilight, I've got to say, for Twilight, finishing 8th though, great job for him. Managed to survive a lot of carnage and chaos, but yeah, I think he'll be very pleased with an 8th place finish there. Go on.
Well, that's one thing I will say about Twilight is you always see Twilight sort of 8th to 16th. He could be filling any one of them positions in the race, but then he'll always pull it out sort of the last couple of laps. He'll always find himself in a position, and that's where he normally stays.
Yeah. It's just sometimes you might get unlucky and he ends up getting knocked about a bit on the last lap. David Harp, how he's finished 9th, I don't know. I think the only position he didn't hold during that race was from 5th upwards. He pretty much was in every other position at some point. But I mean, we've said, well, it's kind of knowledge in the DGT League that David Harp is usually a little bit tougher on his tyres. Mitch, again, he's tougher on his tyres. So for Dave at this track, I can imagine it's a very difficult one for him to perhaps be a little bit consistent, especially if he feels he's being attacked a lot from behind, where he's then having to perhaps push the tyres a little bit more. But 9th place finish, I think, having looked at how the race went, that's not bad, to be fair. Formula Gary, I've got to say, fair play to him. No one thought he'd be able to race, let alone get to the end. So yeah, I think he's done well. Didn't really see much of Jimmy throughout the race. Just saw him warming up his tyres a few times.
I seen him arrive at that hairpin in the last chicane, in the last sector backwards. Yeah. I
saw Hay sideways a few times, but also saw Hay do a couple of decent overtakes. So it's an interesting season for Hay.
I didn't really see Rich because he's in quite an understated car.
Yeah, he kind of blends in a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does a bit, but and then obviously we got Fluffy, Bunsell and Apal, who all had their own incidents in that race, and unfortunately Bunsell and Apal had that big incident on the last couple of laps.
Well, that was the incident on the last lap at the chicane. I think it Bunsell into Jimmy, which caught, I think it was also Gary, but yeah, it basically resulted in Art Pal and Fluffy being off track big time, because I think Art Pal and Fluffy were actually in about 10th, I think. It was 9th or 10th at the time, side by side, sort of heading towards the chicane. Unfortunately, I mean, I have seen it in detail. I've been shown it by my assistant on Porn Cam, but we won't go on to that one. And yeah, I mean, I have seen it, and I've seen a lot worse from Bunsell, but it is just unfortunate. It's a tiny little touch which has resulted in a big crash, and I can understand why some people may be annoyed from it, because it's one of those things sometimes when you're driving, it could be difficult for someone to say, oh, it was only a tiny little touch, but it was a big crash. But for example, for Fluffy, the hit that he got from Art Pal was huge. That's what Fluffy's experienced, is that bosh, and he's like, what the has happened there? What he may not know is that there's a tiny little touch as a knock-on effect, which has put Art Pal all out of shape on the curb and spun Art Pal into Fluffy, and that's where the big hit comes from. And sometimes that's racing, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it was, holy cow, what a race though. That was absolute, irrespective of any incident, I think that was a brilliant race.
Yeah, not just from sort of the pack as well. There's the guys at the front, obviously we saw on that when we had to have all the cams up, that SJP and Conrad attacking each other, and then we had behind Demon R and SRI attacking each other, and then you've got 8 cars fighting for 8th to 16th. So yeah, obviously the first half of the race was good as well, because we had a 5-way battle for the lead. So it's not like we haven't enjoyed battles in that race and we've been disappointed at the end. There was certainly a lot of battles to try and get through, but all good though. Yeah.
Obviously, we will check for the confirmed race results shortly. But I just want to mention that the next race is going to be at the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit. A week after that will be at the short Red Bull Ring circuit. However, I do need to let everybody know that there has been a mad cow disease discovered in the Austrian mountains. Local farmers reporting that the hills are alive with the sound of moo sick. I had to get one.
And it's all gone quiet over there.
Yeah. Alright then. Right. I actually decided, I actually thought, I'm not going to do jokes today, I'll do something different, but I still didn't get to do this different thing. So I'm going to do it now, right? Well, I just remind everybody, don't forget, check out the merch if you want. You don't have to, but check it out. Okay. Instead of a joke, I'm going to give you a what am I.
Yep.
Okay, I won't give the answer straight away. Actually, I'm not going to give you the answer at all. You'll have to wait till you hear the video. That gives people a chance to comment then on what they think it is. Okay, what am I? When one door closes, another one opens. I'm always moving, but I never go anywhere. And sometimes I'm pushed, and when I try and push back, I'm stopped. What am I?
Shit.
No. Well, see, if you're going to have to think about it, you're now going to have to wait, and we'll have to see. Yeah, I'll give the answer when Connor's not here, and after I've confirmed the race result and the championship standing. So, Connor, thank you very much for joining me on commentary.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure as always.
And definitely was. And yeah, okay, let's have a look at then the confirmed race results. So, as I mentioned, there were a few reports put in, which means that unfortunately Jason has a -2 point penalty for an incident early in the race. Hay also has a -3 point penalty. I think Jason's was he put Art Pan into a spin. Hay's got a -3 point penalty because he had contact with Jason, which resulted in Jason being off the track and in the gravel. And Bunsell, unfortunately, has got a -6 point penalty for the collision on the last lap we saw on the Pat Life cam. But to be fair to Bunsell, he has been behaving himself very well recently, and even then, this incident today, it was a small hit that had a big effect. So confirmation of the race result then being that everyone is in the positions we saw earlier, just that Jason will get a -2 point penalty, Hay will get a -3 point penalty, and Bunsell will get a -6 point penalty. That will have an effect on the championship standings, that's for certain. But before I do get on to those, I will just give you a recap so you can still have a guess at the what am I. I'll give you the answer shortly, but see if you can work it out. What am I? When one door closes, another one opens. And I'm always moving, but never go anywhere. And sometimes I'm pushed, and when I try to push back, I'm stopped. What am I? So while you try and get your head around that, let's have a look at the confirmed standings then. SGP leads the way on 35 points, 2 ahead of Steve F1 in second place, who's only 3 ahead of Conrad in third, who's only 2 ahead of Mitch in fourth. Then we've got a 4 point gap back to Demon R in fifth. It's then very close between 6th place SRI on 19 points and Jason on 18 points in 7th place. Jimmy in 8th is very close to Fluffy Planet, 12 and 11 points respectively. And then we've got Twilight, who's 10th place at the moment on 10 points, just ahead of Dave the Harp on 8 points. And then we've got Haydenridge Blues, joint 12th place on 7 points. Formula Gary, he's in 14th place, 6 points for him. Art Powell 15th on 5 points, and then Tyler's managed to gain a place without actually gaining a position or even being on the track, so he's 16th on 0 points, and Bunsell with his penalty unfortunately drops down to 17th on a -2 point penalty. I'm sure he'll be able to make that back up throughout the course of the championship. As I mentioned earlier, the next race, round 3, is going to be from the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit. We're going to have 27 laps, and the race starts in the game at 1:15 in the sunny afternoon. It's going to be an interesting one, that is for certain. So yeah, what a race we've had today. Hopefully that's going to carry on throughout the course of this series. Yeah, I've been Dave, he was Connor. We'll see if he's worked out what the what am I was, and we'll see if you has as well. If you gave the answer of a revolving door, then you got the correct answer. Anything other than that was just wrong. Please don't message me with abuse if you couldn't get the clues. Not my fault. It's meant to be tricky. Okay, thank you everyone for for watching and joining. Hope you like the live stream, and yeah, you know what to do when you want to see all the action for the DGT League at the Red Bull Ring. You can come and join us next time on the DGT YouTube channel. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you all again soon.